It's no shock that the Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG is a complicated and above all, very expensive card game. But what if there was a way you could put together, by far, the most expensive TCG deck of the format by doing no more than buying a few booster boxes? The answer to that is simple: OCG. TCG players have gone through most of this game's history having to deal with the short print secret rare versions of cards that OCG has gotten as no more than super, rare, or even commons. No more, I say. My goal is twofold. Not only am I going to build one of the modern day's most expensive decks, but I'll do it with no more than a handful of Korean booster boxes. I do this to show the world the downright unfair printing techniques that we have been forced to live with. This is Sealed Only Unity. Alright, so I suppose every good and sealed only series has to start somewhere, so let's go ahead and start with 3 Shadal structure decks. So before we go into the duels, I want to go ahead and go over the deck profile a little bit. We got 3 copies of Wendy, 1 copy of Ariel, 1 copy of Kaus. This is the best light target in the deck because not only can we not use the Trick Clown the turn we send it because we don't have any real Link monsters yet, but it's also searchable off Hedgehog, which means it's searchable off Mathematician, Foolish Burial, and Sinister Shadow Games. 3 copies of Squamata, 2 copies of Hedgehog, 2 copies of Beast, 1 copy of Falco, and 1 copy of Dragon for dealing for random back row, the aforementioned Trick Clown, and 3 copies of Mathematician. 3 copies of Lost Wind. This is the best reactive trap in the deck because it deals with monsters that we can't usually beat over, as well as being able to reset itself, so having that grind game really helps. 1 copy of Incarnation, 1 copy of Core so we can get back our fusion spells at any time, 3 copies of Sinister Shadow Games because not only does it get our monsters in the graveyard for Schism down the road, but right now it gets us access to almost any card in our deck as a Foolish Burial. The only problem is that it's a trap. But you can do some interesting things with, say, Squamata, Wendy, or Dragon because you can use it as removal during your opponent's turn. 3 copies of Shaddoll Fusion, Eldol Fusion, and Super Poly. We need to get to one of these as soon as possible if we're going to make any relevant plays, so we have to max out on all of them. The only one that's technically the worst is Super Poly going first, because not only does it not fuse from the hand, but it has a discard cost, so you're tending to go rather minus when making it. So it's better to have it as a reactive tool, so that way you can just set something like Wendy or Squamata and then make Winda on your opponent's turn. 3 copies of Lure's Draw Power. We'll probably replace these down the road, considering that after a while we'll not have nearly as many dark targets in the main deck, especially ones that aren't searchable. 1 copy of Harpy's Feather Duster, and 1 copy of Foolish Burial. To be honest, it doesn't really matter what you put in the extra deck, it's just up to personal preference, but due to the limited card pool, we have 3 copies of Construct, 3 copies of App Cologne, 1 copy of Grice as a Super Poly target, 3 copies of Winda, 1 copy of Anoitilis as yet another Super Poly target, and 2 copies of Shekinaga. Not only is this a Super Poly target, but we can also use it with Mathematician, so we can hard make this turn 1. 1 copy of Wendigo as a, get this, a Super Poly target, and 1 copy of Shaddoll Construct. This doesn't really do anything, and I've never actually summoned it before actually getting any other Link monsters, but right now it's just a lone stand-up card because we can use it in theory.
It's time to do.
Alright, so our first matchup today is against PCM. He is on Mutants. We've opened pretty strong. We opened Super Poly Squamata, so we can basically deal with almost anything he puts out. Plus, we can get a little bit of resources off of it. He appears to have also opened pretty well. Opened up 2 of his monsters, including one of them off Emergency Teleport, allowing him to get into his stuff. Plus, he's got Prosperity and Ash Blossom and Imperm for double follow-up and responses on our turn. Plus, he's picked up 2 traps, one of which being a polymerization for the archetype, but I don't think it's going to be live anytime soon, considering he only has 1 monster. We Super Poly away his monster, get Shekinaga, and then we activate Squamata effect, and we get Ashed. He activates his trap card to activate his monster, and then we activate the Shekinaga in response to draw a card off the beast, negating the effect, but he has the Imperm to negate it. Normal summons his monster to get exact copy of Expansion, then he goes into another monster. Shekinaga, we try to negate his monster again with another card. Then we pitching our monster getting Wendy, and then Wendy getting a beast, and then we get the Sinister Shadow Games to resolve. Unfortunately, we don't have a target for Shekinaga, so we kind of just have to deal with it, and that's kind of our biggest problem right now, is that we do not have access to a fusion spell. So at this point, we're kind of just hoping that these beasts will get us cards. Unfortunately, we do not pick up one, but we are able to go into Dull Construct by normal summoning the Hedgehog and then going into Construct, making the other Construct, and then setting off Falco, dumping Shaddoll Fusion so that way we can get access to it later when the Construct dies. Getting back the Construct, we forget that we don't want it, and then we add back the Incarnation so we can get more follow-up. He activates Primal, getting himself a monster, which ends up hitting the Incarnation anyway, so we don't really end up getting any use out of it. At this point, though, we're kind of just boned out of our mind. We don't have any real resources. The Falco's only got a couple good targets, and to be honest, I think he just deals with it anyway after we have a little conversation about how damage depth works, especially with the Hoop spell of his. Kind of all comes down to one top deck, and we didn't do it, unfortunately. But that's the way it goes sometimes. Alright, for our next match, we are up against Monica Giovanna, and we win the die roll, and we make ourselves go first. We go ahead and start out with a Foolish Burial for Hedgehog to search Wendy. We go Dull Fusion to make Construct, or excuse me, to make Winda, and then we activate Wendy, we get Ashed, set 2, and pass. We're up against Tri Brigade, apparently it's the wrong deck, of course, and then he decides to go Normal Summon Nurgle into Almirage, get some effects going, and then sets a whole bunch of cards. We start beating him down, normal summoning the Wendy, but he has the trap trick to get himself a Revolt. Can't use the Revolt because of Winda, and special summons 2 times, something like a Nibiru, but we do beat in for some damage. Also getting core for our 1450. Pretty nice. He desires, banishing 10 cards, and what does he pick up? Ash and a Fractal. Pretty good. Get App Clone. We do negate the kit, but it doesn't matter because he's going to chain Torrential. We're going to go ahead and get the App Clone effect. He's going to call by. He's then going to go ahead and set one and pass. We top deck Clown, normal summoning it, and then swinging into the face down, not knowing what it is. Thinking we can go for game, we forget that he has Revolt, so we Doll Fusion to make Construct, and then use Construct effect to get Dragon. But then we forget that we don't want that, and then we go ahead and dump the Hedgehog and get Squamata. Now that we know he has Revolt, he goes ahead and banishes our Construct, and we get our Clown back, because we forgot about that smile. We set one L-Doll Fusion we have, and pass turn. He Tenkis for a Ram, and then he Fractals, gets effect, and then gets himself a Karas, goes and summon our monster, and then uses the effect to banish our face down. But we go ahead and chain it, and then go ahead and get the Construct, and Construct will go ahead and dump ourselves a Wendy, and then a copy of Shaddoll Fusion off the Squamata. He Deridens, pops our Construct, and use Construct effect to go add back Shaddoll Fusion. We use Dragon that we just set off Wendy to draw some cards. He swings in for some damage, swings in with the Trident, makes a whole bunch of Zoos, and then makes Zeus. We Doll Fusion. Our opponent for some reason does not chain it when we summon our App Clone effect and engage a monster. We swing into it, and we have game. And we take our first dub of the week. Alright, so final match of the night. We're going against this person who's on Marine Cess. We win the die roll, get to go first. We activate Doll Fusion, get hit with an Ash, so we end up setting 2 and pass with a monster. He does Marine Cess combos until he gets to Anemone, and then we activate the effect of Anemone, and we hit with Lost Wind. And then during the end phase, we Super Poly, use the effect of Wendy and the Clown, setting Hedgehog and summoning Clown. Top decking Mathematician, we use its effect, dump a Dragon, pop his back row, flip the Hedgehog, and get the Doll Fusion, and he sees the writing on the wall and gives us the win. Alright, so that's the video. I've been alluding to a big project that's been in the works recently, and well, this was it. To be honest, this has been a series I've been waiting to make for a long time, and I'm glad that I finally got the time and money to get this series off the ground. I've been playing, collecting, and studying the OCG format for months now, and I've come to the conclusion that they have it a lot better than we do, and I'll have a full video on that later down the road. But if anybody cares, I just graduated from college, earning my general ed transfer degree, and now I can focus on working full-time, vending, and playing more children's card games. Now that I have more free time, I have at least 6 more episodes of this planned out, not counting the episode where I talk about the differences between OCG and TCG, and how OCG has it straight up better in almost every way. Almost. So, with that being said though, the upload schedule on this will be a bit bipolar to say the least. The release date of these videos will be entirely reliant on how fast I can get the boxes. As you can imagine, it takes time to get Korean sealed boxes. The boxes are usually cheap, but the next day shipping is not, so I'm stuck waiting at least a few weeks for them to arrive. Not to mention, there was a ban list released while I was editing this video. But if you're watching this on release day, I have recorded the second box opening and I'm editing the second video as we speak. Starting in exactly 1 week, I will be posting full unedited matches of the deck in its current state, but instead of being on Dueling Book, they're going to be recorded at my locals. That way you guys can see how the deck functions against real people as it is that week, instead of just a bunch of randos on Dueling Book. But if you're watching this on release day, I have recorded the second box opening and I'm editing the second video as we speak. Also, a huge shout out to JoltsDude139, otherwise known as Zyperius, for the awesome music used in this video. He's an awesome Borderlands streamer who just so happens to make banger music in his free time and lets people use it, as long as he gets credit. You can find a link to his channel down in the description. With that being said though, I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm going to be watching the comments like a hawk, so if you want to chat, give me advice on future sets I should buy, or just want to say hi, I'll be there. Alright gamers, have a good one.